What is up guys, today I got an aim tips video, and in this one I'm going to be going a little bit more in depth because a lot of aim tip videos already repeat the same tips over and over, and in this video I want to bring something new to you guys. So you guys already know how to right side peek, aim at head level, finding the right sensitivity and all that. So I wanted to go a little bit more in depth in this video, so hopefully you guys enjoy. Some of the things I'm going to be talking about in this video is going to include shot timing, crosshair placement, knowing your angles, vertical aim, movement, and controlling your bloom. I know it sounds like a lot, but I'm going to make this as short as possible for you guys. Alright, so let's start off with shot timing. When you're adjusting or flicking your aim, you might over flick on accident and miss your opponent, but as long as you get the right shot timing down and press that fire button exactly when the crosshair is over the opponent, you should be fine. This can also be applied to tracking since you're most likely not going to be on target like 100% of the time, so knowing when to press that shoot button instead of just randomly tapping it can be really beneficial. Same goes with the pump. Sometimes it may be worth taking that extra half second to adjust your aim to the head for a much harder hit. Now obviously only do this depending on the situation, like if the enemy is already weak, it's better just to go for a body shot. Alright, so in this clip you guys can see that instead of trying to flick upwards, I just used my movement to my advantage and waited that extra half second because I knew that he would not be able to fire another pump shot off at me. So I took that extra time and ran forward and waited until my crosshair was exactly on his head to get that 200 pump. Moving on to crosshair placement, you always want to predict where the enemy is going to be. Never be aiming down at the floor or the walls. You always want to have your crosshair ready. So for example, when a player is going to jump or edit down, instead of trying to flick up towards them, sometimes it might be better to just place your crosshair ahead of time, and as soon as they enter your crosshair, you shoot. So basically here you're pretty much combining your crosshair placement with shot timing, which can be really good. Also, you always want to keep track of your opponents through their builds. If done properly, you can instantly get a shot off as soon as they try an edit play. Like during build fights, keep track of your opponent in it, even if you're not like directly looking at them. Just by listening, you can tell where they're gonna be, and you can quickly turn around and go for a shot from the low ground. I notice a lot of average players usually focus too much on their builds and edits and forget where the enemy is positioned. Being aware of where the opponent is very important, and if we actually can shoot through builds in Season 2 coming up here soon, then this tip is going to be very useful. Next up is knowing your angles. I know this isn't really related to improving your aim, but it's definitely a good strategy to hit more shots. So there are certain angles where you are able to see your opponent, but your opponent can't see you. You always want to take advantage of these angles to get some free shots off. Just try to like visualize what your opponent is seeing and try to hit them from a difficult angle. For example, right hand peeks or anytime you can see their legs. Those are very good angles to take advantage of. People always tend to leave one angle open, even if it's just for half a second. Always take advantage of this. Most common angles you can shoot your opponent from are going to be when they try to do a side jump or double ramp. For example, if they're double ramping up but you can't quite see them yet, sometimes it may be worth it to drop down a little bit and get an angle on them. Even if you do lose high ground, you're going to hit them for a lot of damage, then it's definitely worth it. In this clip right here, you can see that I do like sort of an L-shaped stare edit that not many people do, but I recently discovered this trick is extremely useful in box fights, and you guys should definitely consider using this angle. Next up is vertical aim. Now this is something I don't really see people practicing enough, but you do run into this situation a lot of times, especially in mid-game fights or endgame, where you have to go look directly above you and try to shoot the opponent either jumping down, or maybe you're shooting him out, he's falling down, you have to hit that shot. Those are critical shots that you may need to hit. This is definitely going to be a good skill to master, and a good way to practice this is during 1v1s. Just take the low ground on purpose and try to practice hitting shots from the low ground. Movement is not something you really think about when aiming, but most of the time you do this naturally, which is really good for helping out your aim. Just think about it, if you stand still you will have to 100% rely on your aim, but if you combine movement with your aim, then you will have to make fewer adjustments. A good way to show this is by just harvesting. You can see that moving while harvesting makes it much easier to hit the weak points. This includes moving, jumping, and crouching. Now obviously you're never going to stand completely still during a fight, so you're going to need to strafe left and right to dodge the bullets, right? This is where movement can make it a little bit harder to aim, so make sure to adjust your aim in one fluid motion when changing directions. For example, if you're moving right and about to go left, get ready to move your aim to the right, or if you're jumping, get ready to move your aim downwards. I know this sounds very simple, but people still tend to mess it up. so make sure to practice aiming while moving too and not just while you're standing still. Now let's move on to bloom control. I see a lot of people trying to full spray at like over 60 meters, and this is just not going to work unless you get some lucky bloom. Instead, take that extra time between shots to use that first shot accuracy. A lot of people have the habit of just spraying when an enemy is weak, but trust me, relying on that first shot accuracy instead of panicking and trying to full spray him because he's weak is going to give you a much higher chance of getting that kill. But at close range, you should definitely consider spraying. As long as you have them centered on your crosshair, you should hit most of the shots. Also, if the opponent is not looking at you, crouch to reduce the bloom. There's no reason to stand up and shoot if the enemy is not looking at you. Now make sure you actually use these tips. At first, it may be like a hassle since you have to focus on hundreds of other things going on at the same time besides your aim, but eventually these tips will just become muscle memory and you won't even think about them when you're aiming. And that's the whole goal here, is to actually implement these tips into your muscle memory so you can focus on other more important things during games. Now if you made it to the end of the video, make sure you comment with the bullseye emoji and comment your favorite tip throughout this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.